Welcome to the Modern Arroyo. I'm your host, Lisa Odigie, or you can call me Lisa O. My goal with this show is to be able to showcase all of the wonderful things about living here in the Pasadena area, focusing on Pasadena and Northeast Los Angeles. Of course, we'll also explore other parts of LA County, and I'll showcase lots of different neighborhoods, but I really wanted to take the time to focus in on the Pasadena area. On this show, I'll be showcasing tons of different homes in and around the Northeast Los Angeles area. I'll also do walking tours where you can see what it's like to live in certain areas. I'll also be showcasing local businesses, which is probably my favorite part of the show, where I get to talk to business owners and showcase some of the very cool businesses that we have right here in our backyard. I'm also, of course, going to talk about real estate news. We're going to go over frequently asked questions, tips for buyers and sellers, and really just anything you need to know about the local real estate market. As a realtor, of course, it's really important that I know the local market, so I make sure to stay up to date on everything that's happening here in the area. I am basically your go-to girl. Along the way, you are going to meet my family, meet my friends, and one special highlight is my little one that'll definitely be tagging along in this show. She's 4 months old. Her name is Ivy, and she's basically my little assistant, so she'll be a huge part of the show as well. My hope is that this show is interactive, that you get involved with whatever I'm doing. So if you have a local business you want to shout out, or if you have questions you want to ask, please submit your questions to me and you'll get them answered right here on the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. I know you'll love it here. So today's hot topic I wanted to talk about is the viral story, Who TF Did I Marry? If you don't know, there is a woman on TikTok who has gone through a 52-part story talking about being basically duped into marrying this guy who was a pathological liar. Now, the part I want to highlight about this story that really caught my attention was basically through the course of this ruse of a relationship, they started house hunting. And part of the process was they found these realtors that they were working with, and this is in Atlanta, so this is not even here in California. And they went to place offers on homes, and her husband at the time would not want to show proof of funds. So they're writing offers on houses, writing offers. He comes up with all these different excuses as to why the house might fall through, something about interest rates. He can't show the proof of funds until the offer gets accepted, all these different things. And one of the questions that she asks the viewers is, has anybody gone through anything like this? What's the real process when you're placing an offer on a home? Do you get the offer accepted first and then you show the proof of funds, or do you show the proof of funds first? Now, also through this story, she does say that they end up working with several different realtors, and one of the last realtor that they work with informed them, listen, love to work with you, but the first things first, we have to get a pre-approval and proof of funds in hand before we even start looking at properties. So what was funny and crazy about this is that this brought me to tears, really just laughing at, not at her and at her expense, but just like how easy it is to kind of be fooled by someone who tells such a good story. And it reminded me of an actual client that I had when I was first starting out in the real estate business. So, as a realtor, when you're going into meeting new clients, especially ones that have big budgets, you're kind of eager to make sure they work with you. So you might do things like not get that pre-approval and not get that proof of funds and just start showing them houses because you believe they're good for it, especially when it's not just one person, but like a couple, or if they have even a little something like a pre-approval. So something similar happened to me. Met a client, started helping them look for houses because he told me the number that he was looking for to purchase. And I'm like, oh, great. Listen, I want this client to work with me. So I'm just going to start taking them on showings. Now, through this process, I would tell him, hey, listen, we'll go on this showing, but please send me your pre-approval, send me your proof of funds. I kept saying that without ever getting it. Over the course of 8 months, I ended up submitting 3 offers for this couple, and never once did I get the proof of funds. I did see a pre-approval letter, which now listening to that viral story and how she saw a pre-approval letter that wasn't actually real, it makes me look back and think, I don't think this pre-approval letter was real either, but I submit offers, and every time I would ask for the proof of funds, magically something incredible would happen. He has to leave the country. He disappears for a couple weeks and I don't hear from him. Just the number of stories that I was told along the way, it blew my mind. And I told my broker at the time about this, and he's like, absolutely not. Don't go on any more showings. Get the documents that you need. And that was like a huge takeaway for me, from that process. Obviously, that was a lesson learned for me, and I definitely don't go on showings now without a pre-approval and without a proof of funds. But that story, if you have not heard it, I mean, take the time. I want to say it'll probably take you several hours to get through the story. It's literally like a movie, but when I saw that, I thought, oh my goodness, this makes me think of exactly what happened to me with one of my first clients when I first started in real estate. And obviously we'll never make that mistake again, but sometimes people take for granted what we do as agents. They think just showing houses, all of this is just fun, but really our time is valuable. It really shows a mutual respect that needs to be shown between client and between us as agents as well. We're going to do our part, and we're not really asking for a lot from our clients. So that is just the part that our clients need to play as well. It just goes to show you how important it is to make sure, even as an agent, you do your due diligence and you make sure you get what you need before providing a service to a client. It's Women's History Month, so I'm really excited to be able to launch this first episode of the Modern Arroyo during this month and give you guys a little bit of my own history. While we celebrate the accomplishments and achievements of women during Women's History Month, it's like really no better time than to kind of toot my own horn and celebrate my own achievements. So to give you a little bit more of my background, I am a Pasadena native, born and raised here, born in Pasadena, raised in Altadena. I attended schools from elementary through high school here in Pasadena. One thing about me is, although I was not into sports, I was definitely competitive, so I participated in quite a few academic competitions. It pretty much started when I was in elementary school, and I was a spelling bee girl. I actually loved participating in the spelling bee every year, and toot toot, I was also a winner. Now this kind of continued on when I got to high school. I participated and submitted myself into several speech competitions and essay writing competitions, of which I also won. One of my most memorable ones was actually winning the Rotary 4-Way speech contest. And basically you have to write and memorize an 8-minute speech. And at the time, the theme was about the Rotary Club. Well, someone woke up from her nap early, so she's going to join us for the rest of the interview with myself. So yeah, back when I was in high school, my competition with the Rotary Club, I memorized an 8-minute speech and was able to actually go and win the regional competition. By the time I did finish high school, I also was selected to be on the 2005 Rose Parade. I was a princess in the parade, doing my little wave. And honestly, at the time, it's like I knew it was a big deal because 1,000 girls try out to be on it every year. But it's really in my elder age that I really recognize the impact and the significance of what it was that I accomplished. And even just the fact that I was one of the few Black women who have been selected to be a part of this rich tradition. So I'm really, really proud to be able to be a part of Pasadena history in that way. Now, certainly more notably, there's another woman, Black woman, who has made history here in Pasadena, and her name is Octavia Butler. She is a world-famous science fiction writer born right here in Pasadena. What's really cool is that she has actually won a ton of different awards and recognitions for her writing. She was also the first science fiction writer to receive the McCarthy Fellowship, which is basically like receiving a Genius Grant. This pretty much ties into my celebration of Women's History Month in who we are going to feature for our local business spotlight. So this month we are talking to Nikki, the owner of Octavia's Bookshelf right here in Pasadena. Octavia's Bookshelf is the first and only Black female-owned bookstore here in Pasadena. You're going to learn with me about Nikki's journey in opening her bookstore and really the significance of the cultural impact that she is having right here.
Hi, I'm Nikki, owner and founder of Octavia's Bookshelf in Pasadena, California. I chose Pasadena for the location of this bookstore for a couple of reasons. The biggest is this is my hometown. We moved here when I was 3 years old. That was 47 years ago, almost 48 years ago. And I've been here ever since. Also, I am mildly obsessed with Octavia Butler, who was born and raised in Pasadena. So it was a no-brainer to bring this bookstore to my hometown. Octavia's Bookshelf is pretty special, at least I think, and my customers do too, thank goodness. We're special because we are a bookstore dedicated to promoting literacy. We are dedicated to uplifting underrepresented authors. Typically, you don't see Black, Indigenous, or people of color authored books so prominently displayed. And so my goal here with Octavia's Bookshelf is to not only share those stories with readers of all backgrounds, but also to for the kids, for Black and brown children to come in and see themselves on the covers of books. Is just a magical experience for me, and I wanted to create this space because it's a space I did not have access to growing up in Pasadena. So this means a lot to me that it's being so well received by the community.
So as you guys know, I'm always here with my little assistant. So she's joining our interview today. And so, Nikki, tell me more about this location. I love you were just telling me a really cool story about how you were an early reader. So, like how that kind of like was prophetic
Yeah.
to what you were going to end up doing.
Yeah, I mean, I was an early reader, and so maybe around age 3, I was just reading everything like cereal boxes and newspapers, and really inappropriate books that my aunts and mom would have laying around the house. I just loved reading stories. It kind of spurred my imagination, and it allowed me to escape a lot of times. I grew up with a lot of love, but some families are more dysfunctional than others, and I definitely had that. And growing up in the 70s and 80s was like a very tumultuous time for society, particularly in our neighborhood. And so my mom really never had to worry about me running the streets because I just wanted to be at home with my books. And I got older, and I had never stopped reading. And when I was about 16, I read Kindred by Octavia Butler for the first time, and I was just like hooked. And then I just started to discover other authors that I had not previously been exposed to.
Especially not in school.
Not in school, no. So happened upon Esselwan Books in Leimert Park. And so then I started to read Audre Lorde. Yes, I did. I did. And so many other Black women writers specifically. And it just opened up a whole new world. So around the time of the first lockdown, when everybody was at home, just sort of wondering what to do next, I just started thinking about I guess I just started to think about what kind of legacy I wanted to build, and I'm always sort of asking myself, like, am I being a good ancestor? What can I do to be a good living ancestor? What legacy will I leave when I am done with this life?
I feel like 2020 was the year of questions.
It was.
It was the chance to same for me. I mean, I had my son.
Yeah.
And then it was the question, like, do I want to keep doing what I'm doing, or do I want to start a new journey? Like, is this the season? Is this the time? And I feel like that gave us space to think.
It did.
And to really evaluate our impact, not just even for others, but on ourselves. I think like a lot of us are working jobs that weren't really fulfilling, that weren't really wasn't really leaving a space in our heart to
Yeah.
feel like, yeah, this is
Yeah.
it, you know?
Yeah.
So that
And
was
those
kind
are the
of,
questions too that I
yeah.
was asking myself. Like, I know that, like, you know, I'm my default is happy, but like, can I
Mm-hmm.
be happier? I don't know.
Yeah,
And
right, right.
it makes me really happy to be around books. Anytime I travel, I'll seek out the
Mm-hmm.
local independent bookstore. I
Yes.
find a lot of solace in the quietness of libraries. And so then I started thinking, well, what would I want to do every day? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I would like to read, but I also love to talk to
Yes,
readers.
yes.
Um, and that's sort of how the
How
idea
this
started
came up.
to
Wow.
come up.
And so what were you doing pre Octavia's bookshelf?
Yeah. So believe it or not, I worked for Trader Joe's. I was a
Oh,
communications director
okay.
in our corporate office. I had been there for, I think, like 16 years.
Have you seen the Black Girls in Trader Joe's
I
Instagram?
have,
Yeah.
yeah. I love
Yeah,
that
that's one of
one.
my favorites.
Yeah. And that, it was a job that paid me really well.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with incredible people that are, still supporting me to this
Right,
day in this
right.
journey. And so it was very different than other entrepreneurs I talked to who
Mm-hmm.
say like, oh, I just hated working for other
Mm-hmm.
people and I couldn't wait to get
Mm-hmm.
out of there. And for me, I was like, I don't want to leave this family that I've,
Right,
been a part of for
right.
so long. But the call to
Yes.
action, the call to do this, just it was bigger.
Right.
And so I quit my job in October of 22.
Okay.
I had taken a trip to Swaziland,
Wow.
which is like this little tiny landlocked country, but surrounded by South Africa and
Mm-hmm.
Mozambique.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had no idea that Swaziland, it's Eswatini now, but that was a country until decades ago when I was reading a book to my
There you
son
go.
called Learning to Swim in Swaziland. And I always
Oh,
thought
how
like,
beautiful.
but I went there and I went to South Africa and I stayed with these incredible women who were textile makers.
Mm.
And I was just like in awe of the community that they
Mm-hmm.
had together. And when I got home, that kind of sealed the deal. It's like,
Yes.
I want to do that.
Yes.
And so I quit my job.
Wow. So it pretty much just all came full circle and it brought you here.
Yeah, I mean, I had been tossing the idea around for a few years
Mm-hmm.
prior to that, but I just didn't see the pathway. Like there was something in my brain that wouldn't
Right.
allow me to see it.
And I feel like sometimes those seeds are dropped in your spirit, but you have to have a few more experiences in your life and then it opens up, right?
Yeah, it did. And I would go into independent bookstores and say, this is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think that was something I can do. That's like something other people get to do. You don't get to do that.
Right. What a privilege, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I had time to think, I was like, why?
Exactly. Exactly. That's like the big question. Why?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yes.
If not me, then who?
Right.
So obviously the world of business is not without its challenges. And I know you've had some very unique challenges since you've been here. Can you talk a little bit about that and how did you overcome some of those things?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I was able to overcome those things because I have such an incredible community of folks in the Pasadena, Altadena area that are pretty vocal about ensuring that I stay here and that this place gets to exist. But the book selling industry is difficult. The margins are razor thin, so just understanding that. I've not gotten the what is it like the most welcome response from a very, very loud, small, tiny group of people who have come in and attempted to intimidate me. I've had someone break in the store in the middle of the night and cause a ton of damage. Things like that I feel like I didn't prepare myself for that. It felt so personal.
Yes.
And for anyone who loves books, after finding out if like all the humans are okay, it's like,
What
what
about my
about the books?
books?
Yeah, what
Right,
happened to the
right.
books? And so that was really hurtful.
Yeah.
And sort of in like just a moment of vulnerability, I just clicked on Instagram and I was like, all right, guys, so this is what happened.
Yes.
Because I had to resist the urge to just hold it in. I was like, I want people to know this happened. And
it's like you're building a community for
yeah,
others, not realizing that it's for you too.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so, without question, I mean, people and neighbors just started to show up because I said in the video, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be closed today because we have to repair all this damage. And church leaders, neighbors, customers, folks who just saw me on Instagram, they said, I didn't know what else to do, so I drove here. And so to be held up by so many people, it
that
just
you had
meant
no
the world
idea
to
we're
me.
just in your corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, like being a Pasadena resident my whole life and seeing this here, like I was telling you, I drive by every day, and every day I'm like, "Whoop,
Yeah.
there it is." And it's just like it just gives you such a warm feeling inside. And like not a lot of stores or retail businesses are going to give you that feeling, but every time you drive by, I'm like, I just get such a warm and like happy feeling inside, like, oh, I'm just to see it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I love it. I love seeing it here,
Yes.
And, of course, obviously working in real estate, there's always this topic of gentrification and things like that, right? So to be able to see um, a community of color still being maintained,
Sure,
and still being able to hold space it's priceless.
Yeah,
it really
it
is priceless.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, and I've been here since the 70s, and I've seen a lot of the Black community move out of the area because it's just not affordable.
Right.
But there's a legacy here, and we're still here. And I think a store like this is really important because as I mentioned before, not only do Black and brown kids get to just walk in and see themselves reflected all over the store, but also to share our stories with other people, people who consider themselves readers but may just be solely focused on one type of book or one type of author, and to be able to not only share stories of our history and a lot of trauma, but also like this great imagination and joy and love.
I'm so glad you said that, because there's one thing about like Black media that sometimes it gets like, when other people are telling our stories, right, it's always the same story all the time.
Yes.
And at least with books, you get to see the range. And like, I'm always like delighted when I see something that's not like, oh, it's a police drama, or it's like, just pain all the time, but not to discount all of the creativity and like just the stories that we can tell, like there's just so much more.
There is. And I know for me, just like living in a Black woman's body for my entire life, sometimes I do not have the emotional capacity to see us in pain. It physically hurts me. And those stories are obviously very important.
Right.
But I love books where I can say, you know what, I want to read something really funny today, or I want to just, read about a mythical creature or a distant
it's
land.
Not like we don't also love these things.
Yes.
Like what? Do you know how much Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, like, you know what I mean? We also love fantasy, and we love it all. So
we do.
It is beautiful to be able to see that. Like, just looking around the store, I'm like, look at all, it's just so vibrant, like the colors, and so there's a lot, there's depth, here, which is awesome. Are you gonna hold out just for a little longer? She's like, Mommy,
she'll
me.
Think about it.
Okay. All right. So tell me about anything exciting that you have going on. So like, what are some events and things that you do here at the store?
So we have really ramped up our children's programming. So we have been delighted to offer a children's story time on Saturday mornings at 11:30. And we have different children's book authors coming in. And sometimes there are little activities that go along with it, which are a lot of fun. We also do author events. So for the launch of a new book, we'll bring in an author. They will oftentimes have a moderator with them to discuss the book. We do a Q&A. We do book signings.
I did see you had Jada Pinkett here when she launched her book. I'm like, ooh, go ahead, big time.
Yes. Yeah, even Amanda Seals came in to do.
I did see that too, yeah.
Yeah, she did just like a little comedy night. And it was really a beautiful gesture because she was like, I don't want anything. I just want to do something for your customers and have a good time. And so like I was able to offer that evening for free to the community, which was really amazing. About a week or two ago, time kind of merges now, but we did just a beautiful Black maternal health event. We had midwives and doulas and other professionals here.
How did I miss that? How did I miss that? Okay.
We do things that we feel are impactful to the community. And then I'm connected with La Pintoresca Library, which was a favorite of Octavia Butler, and the Huntington Library. So we host sci-fi book clubs, and Tuesday nights we stopped for a little bit over the holidays, but we do a knit night. So folks can just come. You don't have to be a knitter. You can be a crocheter. You can be an artist. You can just do whatever you want. But you know,
sweet.
6
I have my little crochet stuff. I might bring my little needle. I haven't done anything in a while.
Do it. It's just like an hour and a half. We have, you know, snacks. We laugh. We talk, and it's just a place where you can be surrounded by, you know, all this beautiful literature, but do something really creative. And we're always just looking for other ways to celebrate literacy, to involve the community, because I also want this to be a space where you're not just fed books, but like your spirit is fed. And so, we're really excited about some of the programming.
Is a great space for all of the above. Like every time I'm like looking around, I'm like, this is the cutest place.
Yeah.
And so I love that you also are featuring other vendors too. I know I saw the greeting cards by Miss James.
Yes.
I love her cards. I buy them often.
She's incredible.
And I see you have her new work that she's doing up there, which is very cool. So I like that you have other merchants here, which is very cool too.
Yeah, and the Barbie doll, that was a Barbie doll done by Milan Carter. She's also my longest friend, but she does like custom Barbies that reflect the person who's commissioning them.
Oh, that's sweet. That's cool.
We have candles that are, you know, like hand poured by Black women. We prioritize marginalized individuals and try to use those suppliers to supplement some of the things that we offer in our stores.
That's awesome. I love it. So is there anything you want our viewers to know about the store? Anything exciting coming up? Anything you want to promote?
Yeah, so April 27th is Independent Bookstore Day.
Oh.
And and it truly is a celebration of independent bookstores. It's celebrated nationwide, so there's almost 1,000 independent bookstores in the U.S. that participate.
Very cool.
We are going to have a children's drum squad called Crown City here from Pasadena. They'll be here to kick off the day, and we'll have lots of fun games and prizes. It really will just be an opportunity to be, you know, with one another, look at new books. We're going to do a book crawl with the Salt Eaters, which is a Black woman-owned bookstore in Inglewood, and Reparations Club, which is another Black woman-owned bookstore in Los Angeles. The three of us meet weekly, and we are looking forward to offering some limited merchandise that reflects the three of us.
Very cool.
So I think that's the biggest one right now that I'm really working on trying to perfect, because I want it to be just come in, dance, grab some snacks, Look at the
Yes.
drum squad. We'll have some other special guests and book signings, and it'll just be a good
That's
time.
great. So
Yeah.
that's April 27th.
Yes, that
Okay,
is
so you heard
Saturday,
it
April
here,
27th.
Saturday, April 27th. So we will all be here. So thank you so much for giving us your time and to sharing with our audience. So where can we find you online if anyone wants to find your bookstore? Like, where can we find you?
Yes, you can find me online at octaviasbookshelf.com. I am on Instagram at Octavias_bookshelf. And that's where you can find the latest and greatest.
Okay.
Our calendar is on our website. Our Instagram is where we promote events.
Okay.
So either of those two places. And then, of course, you can come in 1365 North Hill Avenue. It's just a block north of Washington in the beautiful city of Pasadena.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Nikki, for your time. This was such a wonderful interview. And please don't forget to stop by, follow her online for all the new cool events that are going to be happening. And thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Bye.